You're about to watch a simple question turn into a full-blown Washington escape act. A congressman notices something pretty wild. Trump rolls out global tariffs, and Russia isn't on the list. So he asks the only follow-up that matters. Was that an oversight, or was it on purpose? And instead of a straight answer, you get the official DC classic, "I'll advise the president accordingly." Translation, don't make me say it out loud. Stick around, because the last line is what people actually say when the spin gets too obvious.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Ambassador Greer. Welcome to the committee. Thank you for all your service. I just have a direct question because I'm a little puzzled. Being a great James Bond fan, I was kind of wondering what this whole deal is to Russia with love, and why, as has been pointed out, that on April the 2nd, the president excluded Russia, Belarus, Cuba, and North Korea from the new global tariff. The Treasury sector said Russia wasn't on the list because they already imposed sanctions to prevent most U.S.-Russia trade, making higher tariffs unnecessary. The question's kind of twofold. Is that the case with Russia, Belarus, Cuba, and North Korea? While trade in goods has decreased, trade with Russia is still significant. Last time I checked, it's like $3.5 billion. Well above the volumes of trade for many smaller countries that my colleagues have already been through that are impacted by this. So first, was this an oversight, or is the president trying to reinvigorate trade with Russia?
So there's no effort to reinvigorate trade with Russia. Congress did the right thing a couple of years ago and revoked permanent normal trade relations with Russia, so put it in the bad category. And so Belarus, Russia, North Korea, they already have their own high tariffs already in a category that Congress has established.
So it doesn't matter. They're not part of this.
Well, it does matter. They already have these high tariffs. They don't have permanent normal trade relations. We have normal trade relations with these others. And I think if there's
so
trade with
why are
Russia,
the penalties that much more, why are the tariffs that much more higher on other country and allies than they are in Russia, because we're already doing enough with Russia?
No, it's because in the sanctions law, there's always an exclusion for agricultural products, and I think that's the only type of trade we really have with Russia. But all of those folks, they're sanctioned, they're subject to embargoes of one type or another. Congress revoked permanent normal trade relations, and that's certainly the right answer for those folks. We should not have normal trade relations with those countries.
Well, let me ask you this then. Would you commit here that if we see trade increasing from last year, that USTR will take action to increase tariffs on Russia?
Oh, I'm happy to monitor that and advise the president accordingly. I agree with you.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm happy to monitor that and advise the president accordingly.
What does that mean,
you're
going to monitor that?
Well, you asked if we would see if would change, if we would see if the trade level would change. I'm agreeing with you. I'm happy to see if the trade level with Russia changes.
If it does increase, you will add additional tariffs.
Well, it's the president's choice, but I'll advise him, and I'll say this is affecting the trade deficit. And we should consider this.
So
sure.
Does that mean you would advise him to raise the tariffs with Russia?
Well, I don't typically give out my advice to the president out in public, but I agree with you.
Well, I'm sure the American people would love to know, and as would members of Congress. I mean, you got to kind of admit it is just if you casually follow the news, you're not a member of this committee, and the relationship with Russia is kind of bizarre in terms of what it is between President Trump and President Putin, and why this relationship exists. So you can imagine, I don't know, have you ever been to Augie and Ray's?
No, I haven't.
You should. It's a great spot in East Hartford. It's right next to Pratt & Whitney Aircraft, et cetera. And they're deeply concerned about this, and they always say, hey, what's going on with Russia, and what's going on with the president and Putin? So I'm going to be able to tell them, don't worry. I spoke with Ambassador Greer, and currently Russia's apparently paying enough. Their sanctions already are sufficient. But if we see greater activity and great trade amounts, we're going to make sure that tariffs are levied on them. Is that a fair thing to say?
Well, on the last part, I can't make the president's decision for him, right? I mean,
But
Russia.
you
and
would
these other bad
recommend that
actors.
you would increase tariffs on them.
Well, I'm not going to disclose my recommendations.
So
to the
we're not going to
president.
recommend, we're not going to
do
say, see, at Augie and Ray's, they would say, hey, come on, you're BSing us now. We know what's going on here. But with that, thank you, Ambassador, and appreciate your time. I yield back.
Okay, let's break down what just happened, because this isn't really about tariffs. It's about a pattern. When the question gets uncomfortable, the answer becomes procedural. First, notice Larson's setup. He doesn't open with a spreadsheet. He opens with James Bond, to Russia with love, because he wants to frame this as so obvious it's almost cinematic. And then he drops the core point. Russia was excluded from the new tariff list, with the implied explanation being, well, sanctions already limit trade. That sounds neat. Until you remember the second part, Larson immediately adds, trade still exists. Not theoretical, not symbolic, real money moving. So he does what Congress is supposed to do. He asks, is this consistent? And if not, why? Now watch Greer's defense. It's not Russia should be included. It's not Russia shouldn't be included. It's category shifting. He moves the conversation to PNTR being revoked in existing high tariff categories. Basically, Russia is already in the bad bucket. But Larson isn't asking which bucket Russia is in. He's asking why, in the big public, tariffs for everyone moment, Russia isn't treated like everyone else, especially when allies are getting hammered. And that's where the exchange starts to crack. Because here's the line that matters. Larson pushes for a commitment. He's basically saying, fine, if trade with Russia goes up, will you push to raise tariffs? And Greer answers with the most Washington sentence ever invented. I'm happy to monitor that and advise the president accordingly. That phrase is a magic trick. It sounds cooperative, but it's actually a refusal to commit to anything measurable. Monitor means nothing. Advise accordingly means nothing. It's how you escape a yes or no question while pretending you answered it. And then it gets worse because when Larson tries to nail it down, so you'd advise raising tariffs? Greer says he won't disclose his recommendations in public. Now I get it. Officials don't want to negotiate policy live on camera. But that's not what Larson is asking. He's asking for the basic principle. If Russia is still trading, why is it treated differently than countries that aren't exactly moving billions in trade? And when you won't even state the principle, people fill in the blank with politics. That's why Larson brings up the broader context. He basically says, people watching the news see Trump and Putin, and they don't trust this. Whether you agree with that framing or not, Larson's point is simple. Transparency matters. Because tariffs aren't just math, they're signals. They say who gets pressure, who gets a pass, and who gets protected by vague language. And the diner moment at the end? Well, that's the closer. Larson says if you gave that answer at a local restaurant, people would say, come on, you're BSing us. That lands because it cuts through the fog. It's not a policy debate anymore. It's an accountability test. So here's the real question for you. If a top trade official can't say, on the record, whether he'd recommend tougher action if trade rises, what exactly is Congress overseeing? And what exactly are voters supposed to believe?